Welcome to episode 7 of Real Time Design. It's been a while, but if you're new to the series, this is where I go inside Photoshop for 30 minutes straight. You're gonna be watching unedited, uncut footage. You'll see me experimenting, trying some different things, and we'll see what we end up with. Our subject for today is Will Brandt of the Minnesota Wind Chill. Let's get into it. So this is the first episode I'll have done since my 30-day design challenge, which was supposed to get me to start pushing the limits of sports design and try out some new design ideas and design formats that I hadn't tried before. So I'm going to try to make this video actively not like other 30-minute design challenges that I've done in the past. I've got this concept in mind. That is one thing I picked up from this 30-day challenge, is that I want to go in with some idea. So I really like this image of Will Brandt from last year's championship game. Pre-game warm-ups, he's wearing this oversized Knicks shirt, and I want to turn this shirt into a showcase of his own photo. I thought that'd be a fun concept to play with. So to start, I'm actually going to take this, well, let's go first into Camera Raw filter before we do any edits. And then we can go from there. First, some basic lighting adjustments. Just going to bring up the exposure a bit. And highlights and shadows, of course. And then we'll up the texture and clarity. And I don't know, for detail, I like to do a little bit of noise reduction sometimes just to smooth things out. But we'll hit OK. Just a kind of a pop of light from this first cutout. So now we can take our lasso tool and go around this Knicks logo because we want to get rid of this. And I use generative fill for a lot of jersey swaps these days. Super helpful tool to just get rid of elements on an existing shirt or a clothing item, whatever. So once it's done, this should disappear. Yep, that looks good. And now I want to take this whole blue shirt and make it black. So let's take these two layers and make it a cutout folder. Now let's take a hue and saturation. Can drop this. Honestly, we could clip it to these layers. This is our cutout. And I just want to desaturate the shirt. Honestly, we could select it here, not with the magic wand, but with our quick selection tool. Uh-oh, Photoshop's getting a little slow on me. Hopefully it hangs in there. But we might need to restart. No, we're looking okay. Are we? For now. Maybe I'm just going a little too quickly for Photoshop's liking. Just trying to get the selection roughly in all of the blue of the shirt. And then we can fine tune it after we've made this initial one. So let's take a mask of this hue and saturation layer and click to activate it. Now with a black or a white brush, we can clean up these edges. You just want to be careful where the shirt touches the skin here to make sure we're not graying out any skin tones, but getting as close as possible to change the color of the shirt. So we're going to make this black shirt, just keeping the colors more consistent with the wind chill colors, and I don't think the Knicks blue really has a place here. Nothing against the Knicks, but it's not our sport. And we'll clean that up. These edges can get a little more refined too. And that's feeling pretty good. I also want to make this more of a black instead of a dark gray. So let's take another layer, curves, and clip this one. And we can do the same layer mask. I'm just going to hold Option, click and drag that on top. We'll replace it. And now we can really make this more of a black t-shirt. And honestly, it should be the same black as his hat. The hat is going to have some blue values in it. So we can probably take those out. If you take another hue and saturation layer and get rid of the blues, you can see what that is affecting. So that looks and feels better. Now, as far as what's going on this shirt, I'm just gonna put a white rectangle about where I see the design going. And I think from here, actually, let's make it a little bit bigger and then make it a smart object before we shrink it down. So filter, convert for smart filters. Now let's shrink it down. You'll see why, because I want to be able to like edit this shape in a separate window. And I'm just going to rotate it so it looks a little bit less perfect. And honestly, we could take a perspective transform and bring those edges a little bit towards the viewer. So something around there. Now when you double click to open the smart object, we can now drop in, where was the photo? Yeah, this photo where he won championship weekend MVP. He got this championship MVP chain. And so I want to put this image on his shirt. And so to do that, I'm just gonna center things, and we don't need this extra hand, sorry, to Evan Lepler. Let's just erase that, and can probably erase this light too, so we just keep it more of like a solid black background. And we can see how this looks just by saving it. And with this layer, let's put this in a folder and call it design. And I'm gonna take this folder and blend in the blacks so it's a little more consistent, just easily fading into the shirt design. We can also take a mask here and make sure his finger is going over it. Okay, and then I think for the design itself, we can start playing with it. Playing with the colors some. I think threshold is kind of a classic, like t-shirt looking effect that we can do. I think that could work. It looks really pixely here. But yeah, you kind of get the idea. Maybe a little bit more white showing on that. And obviously like the specific detail of the shirt isn't super important, but hopefully it's big enough to tell, at least for people that know the photo, that he's wearing a championship MVP chain. Maybe we blow him up a little bit more. Try to make it a little more obvious. So we'll save that, see how it looks. I think I'm liking where this is at. Maybe this rectangle can probably just be a little bigger and take up more of the shirt. So I want to make sure this finger mask isn't revealing any of the black behind it. So that's feeling okay. And then I think to build out the rest of the design, well, let's first move it. Yeah, maybe rotate it. I want to add some text to this and make it feel like a more complete shirt design. So let's make a new layer. We'll type out Brant. And I've been using this Carol Gothic black letter font that I think is really nice and probably fits the aesthetic of this fake shirt design. So let's place that there, and I'm just going to skew it down so it lines up a little bit better with this like bottom edge. And then we have this nice space here, so I'm going to type out his first name, Will, and we can center that text and probably bring it closer together as well. And let's see if we can just fit that right in this space. I think I want a little bit more line spacing so it's not too tight. Let's go there and transform the whole thing. I think this works okay for like a makeshift impromptu t-shirt design. Now we could play with the colors too. I don't know how we feel about black and white, but if this is our design folder, we can take a gradient map on top of this, and not white to black, but black to white. And then if we want to change the black color to, I guess we need the black value on this side. But we can take the white away and make it more of a blue or even pink. It's kind of interesting. It's hard because it's not consistent. I mean, I could eyedropper this blue from the Windchill logo. That's maybe okay. I feel like either blue or white is good. let's keep things, well, let's just, so we have the option, I'll make this blue, and then we can always turn off or on this gradient map. But maybe we like this. I think the image, maybe I want a little bit more of that space filled. I mean, we could add some stars, maybe. That's something we could do. There's a font called Zap Dingbats, and capital H is a star. I don't know if that's a default font on all computers, but couldn't transform. What if I do it here? Still? Is it too, maybe it's too small? No. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's really first rasterizing the layer. I don't know what this error is, but this might be the end here. No, we'll just we'll ditch that star idea and maybe come back to it later. Okay. Oh, you know what? I had a big selection going on. Sometimes that happens. You like end up selecting something and it messes with everything or doesn't let you do what you want. But we've moved on. We're going on to the foot shadows now. So I'm going to start brushing in, I think, a little bit softer flow with this flat black brush. Some shadows on the feet, and we can get a little bit darker for the points that, oh, we also want a soft brush. Let's redo this, actually. You want your brush totally soft for these shadows, so make sure the hardness is set to 0, and then you can fill in the foot shadows as needed. Again, darken the parts that are clearly contacting the ground. It's always helpful. And then we can make a new layer, kind of bridge some of this gap between these shadows. So something like this. And then I know in the original photo, like his hair, you can see is light. The light was hitting him from this back side. So in theory, shadow should come out here, but let's see if we can actually make that work. Maybe just like something like that is okay. I want to fine tune that a bit because I just feel like it's too big, but maybe cleaning up this edge and cleaning up that edge. It's maybe okay, but I don't know, it kind of feels forced. Let's just keep it as like a solid horizontal foot shadow. Keep things simple. These can actually go in the cutout folder. Now back to what I wanted to do before. We can make a new layer. T for our type tool. We'll hit that capital H and find that Zap Dingbats font. Now I can transform it. Photoshop is happy that I don't have anything selected. I don't know, will 2 stars fit in this little area? I just kind of want something there. It feels like too much black space. Not that we need to focus so much on this t-shirt design, but I don't know. It feels a little bit better having something there. So yeah, let's go with that. Maybe the black and white theme is a little bolder. We'll stick with this and maybe blow it up a bit more. And can move it over. Now you can see in the shirt, there's some darker folds on this side that the design isn't really being affected by. So to change that, one thing you could do is add I wouldn't do an exposure layer. I would add a curves layer because that's what I mostly work with. Just drop this white value down. And then, ooh, well now I'm kind of liking this gray on black look. And it's so easy to get distracted. Anyway, make a mask and go back to your full-sized round brush. And you can just slowly paint out this part that would be like being affected by the fold in the shirt. And you could go through any like fold spots to try to make it a little bit more realistic. But this is kind of like a quick and dirty way to achieve something like that effect. We'll leave the shirt and the cutout design there. Now this is a point, well, no, maybe we want to tweak the skin tones a little bit. We are almost at the point where I want to do something with the background. We just have to figure out what. So first let's do these skin tones. I think maybe slightly more muted skin tones could work. Depends what the background is, really. We'll keep things there for now. Now for the background, I definitely want to include more images. So I've got some like pretty solid face shots in this folder. Let's start with this one. And I'll blow it up nice and big. Position it over here. And then I think we could fit one more cutout facing the other way. I think I had, oh yeah, one of these, either the clapping or just the looking, maybe just the looking. Keeping his face visible. I could do the golden ratio here and make it exactly 1.6, like 1.6 of the size of this big cutout, but maybe we just eyeball and see what looks good. I don't know if I like his arm sticking out so much. We could rotate him. Then he's kind of looking up. I mean, really, it's like I want this cutout and I want the bigger cutout in front of this guy. So maybe we can erase part of him. I mean, maybe we just do this. We just kind of like fade the images together. Doesn't not work. Yeah, I think this is fine. We can even group these, make a mask so it's more of like a clean cutoff at the bottom. That way we're giving our cutout something to stand on. And this is sort of like the wall behind him. So I like that. I mean, we can take these through camera raw filter too, just to bring in a little bit more detail. But for this design, I wanted to get kind of like chaotic and grungy with the background, so I won't do too much with this, and we'll focus more on like our background effects. But let's just take that camera raw filter setting, and I'm going to apply the same one to the big cutout in the background. So we got this kind of like brightness pop going on. Now I want to add some text, and we're going to like distort all this, but first I want to add some text. So I'm going to type out Brant. Let's go back to Carol Gothic and keep this black letter theme going. Just going to blow up the text nice and big, and we'll center it. I think I want to do one of these like either exclusion, maybe difference, divide. I think I need to change the color of this though. Let's see if we go to blue. Honestly, would a white work in one of these? Yeah, like this is kind of the effect I want, this exclusion, where you're getting colors changing depending on what is on the background. Yeah, you can read all the letters. I'm just going to take this name and duplicate it a few times. We have like a few of them. Maybe we decrease the space between letters too. And now we're kind of playing on the t-shirt design for a sort of background layer. Maybe ideally I don't want it covering the faces too much, so I could lower it, or maybe I can move our background pieces up. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I misspelled his name. I just looked in the layers and it's B-R-A-N-D-T, Brant, which I think I got right on his shirt. Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe we just keep the text down here. The thing is, I want to be able to read this somewhere in the graphic. If you ever have like the last name going behind everything, it's okay, just make sure there's some spot that you can read the player's name. So we'll worry about that later, but I kind of like this as sort of a base compositional setup for the background. Maybe I want to move these guys a little bit lower, but being careful not to interact with the text too much. And now from here, we could take this all sorts of directions, but let's make a new layer and Command-Option-Shift-E to apply this whole image to its own layer. And then I've got a shortcut that I put together, Command-Option-F, to convert things for smart filters. You can create shortcuts in Photoshop, and this one's a really helpful one to have. So let's do that. Let's, I'm gonna take this distort wave filter on this one, and we'll do a square wave, and I'm just gonna crank the wavelength all the way up like that. We can mess with amplitude a little bit maybe, but probably not too much. You can play with generations. We're just gonna create this like textural grungy background. I've done this a few times in recent graphics and I've been really happy with how it turns out. You'd put the blend mode to something like divide, and all of a sudden you're getting like some cool like duplicate images. You could even blow this image up and see where that takes you. And honestly, from here, we could also go into this layer and play with these channels to give it like a certain color wash. Blue channel, green. The green is kind of interesting. Maybe the red. I don't know how I feel about these. We could try pink. Let's do pink. And now we can take the cutout on top of everything, and you've kind of just created this like more interesting background that has like this chaotic energy to it. And honestly, I could take a gradient map if I didn't like these colors. And I mean, this is its own vibe, this inverted feel, but we can add some colors to this. We could take that light blue from before. This is kind of cool. I don't know if I'm feeling bold enough tonight to lock that option in. I think we gotta make black the dark points of this. But maybe we keep more of a normal gradient color scheme going. Although now I'm thinking we could try that wave function again. I mean, just to get things even weirder. Let's do it again. Let's do Command Option Shift E. And again, let's apply this exact same wave. And for this one, we can, if we set it to divide again. Yeah, so this is cool. This is like this frosty blue vibe. And again, going back into our colors, I mean, I kind of like this yellow and blue theme. Maybe we just stick with white though. And so yeah, we have, honestly, we could change the wave function so it's not identical to the last one. Maybe we just take like a slightly different approach with the wavelength, just so we have some different like random artifacts going. But again, I want to move this cutout on top of everything. So this is still like our featured thing of the image. And then you just have this like interesting textured wall behind him. So let's take this textured wall, and I kind of want to give it more of like a gritty border. So let's take a white fill layer, and I'm just going to take let's invert the mask. So it's a black mask. And now if I were to brush on just like on the edges like this is kind of the concept I want, but I want more of like a solid, what's it called? Rectangle. But not so solid, like more of a kind of choppy edges. So let's find a good brush for that. Like this pencil brush. And just start like a white brush on a black mask. And then we can just kind of like make this more of a rough edge on this whole image. This feels kind of interesting, and I think I like it. Still want to make sure we can see the faces loosely, and you can kind of make out some of the text, but it's, I don't know, it's interesting. I think I like this, although I wish I could move this whole thing just the way we did it with the applying the image layers. Kind of have to manually center this by brushing more or less on in different parts. I think this works though. Let's move on to some finishing effects. And then we'll also look to add some text. So first I want to just add a fill layer, 50% gray, and make this some noise, 7% I think should be good. Go to hard light just to get some background texture. I do have some other textures that I pulled as well. So I've got these like ice things I could do. This one's pretty fun, like some cool angled slashes. Maybe we take this one to black and white, and we can play with one of these overlays. Maybe soft light works. Hard light is probably a little too extreme. So, ooh, but color dodge is maybe interesting also. I think I like color dodge. And let's put this underneath the cutout. Yeah, so we just have this like ice texture cutting through different parts. And if we want, we can mask out the parts that are more by like the background face, just so we preserve some of those details. Okay, I think we'll put some text maybe right on bottom, like in the middle. Okay, we've got some stray feet from previous layers. So let's, wait, white brush. Let's get that going again. And we'll put the cutout on top. So now we've got this. I think I like this. And then, well, honestly, it should maybe the whole thing should get moved down and the text go at the top. Do I have a good way of doing that? Could I take all of this? Maybe this too. Take all these layers, move them down. I have to take the whole thing. We'll take the whole thing. Move it down. Yeah, like that. We'll bring the cutout down a little further. And this top part, again, we'll just take this border layer that we've been working with. Oh, and it needs to be tall enough to take up the whole canvas, but that should be good there. And then we'll get some like simple text up at the top. So I'm just gonna type out his name. We'll go lowercase letters, Will Brandt. Did I spell it right? Did I spell it wrong again? Man, that Barnt. Man, that was bad. Brand. Okay, Will Brandt. Space those out and center it. I think I like that. And then, honestly, I kind of want to move everything down a little bit further. Okay, selecting all of my layers, dropping them down some more, and covering back up with our border and stretching it. Okay, Will Brandt. Maybe I move it up a little bit, and I think the cutout can maybe just be shrunk down some too. And I also realize there's like a little bit of stray texture down here, which is maybe okay. I don't know, we could kind of play this concept of just like almost letting it fan out to reach the edges, so we don't have like total whiteness. I think I like this. This is a brush I like really never use. It's kind of weird. Okay, yeah, this is kind of a fun design. I'm liking where it ended up. I think that text is fine for now. Yeah, we don't really have time to fine-tune the text too much, although we could duplicate it, add in the team name, Minnesota Wind Chill, left justify this one, and line it up with that 2-box radius. I think we want to lower the space, probably shrink these fonts down to like 25. So you bring the space back up, and then I think on the right side we'll just put in a championship weekend MVP, 2024 championship weekend MVP. This one, right justify. Don't need to make a new text box, but I will drag this one over. So yeah, let's take these 3 text elements, let's space them out evenly. And I think we'll leave things there. I mean, we could do one like last round of finishing effects, some camera raw filter on this whole thing, but I like where this is at. Let's just do some real basic texture clarity. I wonder if it's even too much contrast, like if we need to grunge up our cutout a little bit more. I guess upping the shadows does bring more grain in there. So that's an option. We could do a little bit of vignetting on the edges too. Yeah, maybe it's too much shadowing though. Then I can't really decide what I want to do with the skin tones, like if we should just make the skin tones black and white, or maybe just a more muted version. You could take a selective color layer and just make it, Yeah, just kind of a little more blue. Really, the whole thing we can make more blue with like the neutrals, just boosting, or sorry, lowering the yellows. Same thing with the whites and blacks if we want. Cyans too. Got cut off at the end, but this is the finished Will Brandt poster design. Hope you like it. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you in the next one.